This is the Jack Murphy Podcast. Here's your host, Jack Murphy.
I want to be a bad influence for our growing audience.
So, John, welcome to the Jack Murphy Podcast, by the way.
Thank you.
John.
Oh, you're talking to the audience.
Yeah, I have discovered, I've been doing some research, talking to some consultants, and I have discovered the key. Something on fire over there?
I don't know. I think my headphones are broken. I don't want to be a bad influence.
I have discovered the key, they tell me, to this podcasting and being successful on YouTube is subscribers, likes, and comments. And
right.
We started at 0. You got to start somewhere.
Right.
And what is this, podcast number 3 or 4?
I lost count.
We've had so many problems that it's hard to keep up with. But anyway, we now have 8 subscribers, and I'd like to get to 10 by the end of the weekend. So if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, do it right now. And we have 2 comments today.
2 comments.
2 comments. They're both from the same person, but doesn't matter.
That counts as 2.
Nikki S. says, John, lose the cigarettes.
Huh? What?
And then he also says, if you're going to have John on the show, make sure his microphone's loud enough for us to hear him. And we're aware that we fixed that problem.
So now that we got that out of the way, we're on our way to being the number one. Do you know that we are actually the fastest growing podcast on YouTube?
Exactly.
2 videos ago, we had 8 views, and our last video...
How many?
15.
Okay.
But I felt a 16th coming on.
12 years ago, Joe Rogan went through the same thing.
That's right. We're gonna get some of that Joe Rogan money.
So this morning, I went for a walk real early. The hotter it gets, I try to go early, and now we're getting all these thunderstorms. And I'm on my way to the park, and I drive by this neighborhood close to the park. And, I mean, there's like 400 or 500 houses in there, John. And at the entranceway, they have a big banner out this morning that says, yard sale tomorrow, 10 to 7 a.m. to 11 or something like that. And I mean, not just somebody having it, it's the whole community's having it. And it made me think of my mom, because nobody loved a good yard sale more than my mom. I mean, give her $30 and a sunny Saturday morning and she could just go wild. You could be driving to Chattanooga because grandmother died or one of my aunts died, and she'd be in the car with you, and you'd get to about Rome and see a sign that said yard sale, and she'd go, son, can we stop just for a minute and see what they got, if they've got any good stuff?
I've never been a fan of yard sales. I always just think it's just strangers, dirty fingers touching little statues.
You gotta wash
silverware.
You gotta wash everything. No doubt.
Old
about
Andy Gibb albums. Everything's a quarter. I don't like it.
One time,
plastic bins.
One time when I was a kid, our house burned down, and we bought a trailer. And my dad parked the trailer across the street from the cemetery by his office. It wasn't really a trailer lot or anything. He just parked it there, and that's where we lived. And so we had a washing machine, but we didn't have a dryer. So my mom had a clothesline outside. And one time she put the sheets out there, right? And it's like Thursday night or something, 8 o'clock, when the summer nights are long. And I hear her out in the yard, and she goes, what are you doing? What are y'all doing out there? Everybody get out of here. And some lady had stopped and thought we were having a yard sale, and she was taking the sheets down off the clothesline. was gonna try to buy them, and Mom had to tell her that they weren't for sale. Those were our sheets that
Not a big fan of yard sales
that we were keeping.
Although they're good places for tchotchkes. Can I show you something?
Sure.
Speaking of tchotchkes.
Is it something different, or it's the same thing we saw yesterday?
In a previous classic edition of the Jack Murphy Podcast, we talked about my Christopher Reeve tchotchke. You got to have tchotchkes in your podcast,
right?
So people think you're interesting. And then I thought that was a traced Christopher Reeve autograph. You said it was auto-penned.
It just depends on when it was done, but it's hard to tell. It looks pretty good.
Does it look like it was his signature? You think it was before or after his accident?
Well, obviously, if it was after, it would be auto-pinned, but unless somebody helped him. But I'm more concerned about the picture. I've never noticed how skin and bones he looks there.
He was very skinny.
What's the Henry? What's his name? That's the new Superman.
Cavill.
Yeah, he's real muscular.
I don't have any Henry Cavill tchotchkes, but listen, how it could be that he signed this post-accident. You know, sadly, that's his legacy.
Don't go where I think you're going.
I'm just saying that he would have to do it like this.
That's what I thought you were going to do.
And then they would
He might
actually.
have. He might have.
The question is it really his autograph if all he does is this, and then they move the paper, it's actually them signing the name?
I can read it. So, as far as I'm concerned, it is his autograph.
All right, so that's tchotchkes. That's something I'll maybe sell in a yard sale one day, and some weird family will come through from Cedartown, Georgia.
Somebody would love that.
And they would pay me $0.25 for it.
Somebody would love. Jerry Seinfeld might buy that from you. You never know. I want to ask a question. There's a publication that's been around forever. I remember
Highlights.
I had a small mention in this magazine early in my radio career, and I thought, well, you've really made it now. And it's Billboard magazine. This is the one that, of course, the big Casey Kasem countdown came from. The top American Top 40.
Bill, is it still a magazine or is it just a website?
I think probably it's a digital publication of some sort, but that's where the American Top 40 countdown came from. Like, Dear Casey, my sister got hit by a car. Will you play My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard for her? It'll really cheer her up, Casey.
So he would base the top 40, the Casey's top 40, on the Billboard charts everywhere.
Exactly. But anyway, so now I guess Billboard just does music stories or whatever, but they have a list of the top 100 country artists of all time, and I was kind of shocked at the number one.
Who came in at number
star.
83? That's what I want to know.
I didn't even print the list. I just wrote down number one because I was so shocked. Actually, I wrote down a couple, but
George Strait?
No.
Garth Brooks?
You would think.
The group Alabama?
You would think.
Brooks and Dunn?
You would think. Well, I mean, a lot of people would automatically say Taylor Swift.
Right.
Toby Keith.
Sure.
Rascal Flatts. Jason Aldean. Carrie Underwood. Blake Shelton.
I've run out of sound effects to make.
Okay, the number one person was Kenny Chesney.
Kenny Chesney's number one country artist of all time?
All time. And I mean, I enjoy a handful of his songs. I like You and Tequila Make Me Crazy that he did with Grace Potters. And I like No Shirts, No Shoes, No Problems.
I like Grandpa Told Me So.
I don't remember that one.
It was a minor hit back in the 90s.
But he does those giant stadium shows every summer, and he always has and then he steals artists from, like, he has Uncle Kracker with him now.
Now, he's been around like 32 years, so the more I think about this, the more I think he could be. That means he's bigger than Hank Jr.? That means he's bigger than Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard?
Exactly. But the thing about Kenny, I don't want to get out of line here, but the thing
Don't get us in trouble. We're just getting our podcast going.
A lot of people
get too edgy.
I think a lot of people wonder about this. Kenny, how long ago? 15 years ago? 10 years ago? Kenny married Renee Zellweger.
That was 20 years ago.
And they only stayed married like a week. Like they separated and filed for divorce within.
I ain't judging. I almost have them beat.
Yeah. Do you remember your shortest marriage?
Oh, no, love don't keep score. Go on with your story.
But anyway, they got divorced really quickly, and there were a lot of rumors that they got married. It was an arranged marriage that she was his beard. And I said, what's a beard? Because I didn't know what that was. And that, for those
I thought
of
that
you,
was some like kind of Brazilian wax thing.
Yeah, for those of you watching that may not know what it is, that's when the star or the musician is gay, but they don't want anybody to know it, so they marry someone, and it's called a beard.
Gotcha.
Which is different than a merkin, but we won't go into that.
Good to know. Y'all shut up. Sorry.
So, and then somebody else said, no, it wasn't him, it was her. And then, of course, it was right about that.
She was the beard or he was the beard?
Well, each way. Somebody said, no,
oh, okay.
It wasn't him that was gay, it was her, and he was the beard. And then somebody said, because it was about the time she got that horrible plastic surgery, like, if you pass her or Meg Ryan on the street, you don't even recognize them.
And same thing with Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing.
Yes, and so people said maybe, when they got engaged, she hadn't had the surgery yet, and she had it, and they got married, and he went, whoa, who's this? And
This is not what I signed up for.
Decided not to. All right, listen.
Good to know.
Remember,
Chesney.
we have 8 subscribers. We're trying to get to 10 by the end of the weekend. So go to YouTube, search for the Jack Murphy Podcast, subscribe, like, leave a comment, not about cigarettes or the microphone.
No.
Thanks for watching the Jack Murphy Podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Go ahead, ring it. Get alerts when a new episode drops, and tell your friends about the Jack Murphy Podcast. But only the cool friends, please. Tune in next time for another episode of the Jack Murphy Podcast.